What is the thing that jumps out the most to you in thinking back over week one?
It's Ohio State hosting Texas, and everybody sort of smothered everybody in that game. It just like there seemed to be a vacuum of space. I don't know if that scientifically makes sense as a phrase, but nothing in that game was easy for anybody, which was, I think, a great reflection of the fact that these two teams have had all offseason to prepare for one another. And Texas just finished its season having prepared somewhat unsuccessfully, but still played really well against Ohio State in the semis of the playoff. Um, and that you're dealing with a lot new in this game. But I came away crazy impressed with two defenses, one offense. I'm not worried about anybody on this field long term because these are going to be two excellent teams over the course of the season. But came away fascinated with what Ohio State was able to do in terms of game planning, a relatively conservative game plan on offense, but making it work for them, starting out a little bit sloppy. They weren't necessarily succeeding on the ground, but they made it work for them. They got some tough yards on the ground. They didn't take many chances against an excellent back end of this Texas defense. And Texas didn't take that many chances with their own new quarterback against the back half of the Ohio State defense. And I don't know, it just kind of went as it was lower scoring than I thought it would be. But when you look at the amount of talent on this field, in retrospect, it makes sense that nobody could truly separate aside from that. It was Carnell Tate who had the long, like 40-yard touchdown
40
catch.
yarder, yeah. Yeah.
Like it just there was so much, and it being week one, it wasn't a huge surprise that everybody kind of tried to pack it in, not make mistakes, and the team who was able to get those key stops, which I'm pretty sure Ohio State had 37 dudes on their defensive line on some of those fourth and short moments. Um, they succeeded. Ohio State was just ready in those huge moments in a way that Texas wasn't quite. So that's how I came away from that game, that both of these teams are going to be excellent all season long, but Ohio State is a little bit more advanced in this moment.
I mean, the final score was 14-7.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that either of us expected a shootout. We didn't. But I don't know, to your point, if anybody saw this one coming. I mean, we can label this however we want. I think we can say generously this was a defensive slugfest through and through. These are two really, really good defenses. They were the ones that ruled the roost here. Both of them played extremely well. It was Ohio State's, though, that impressed me the most. And I know you posted a video about this shortly after the game, which you can find out on our social channels and whatnot. But they held Texas scoreless for the first 56 minutes of this football game.
Yeah.
They got a couple really key fourth down stops. As you said, Texas was just 1 of 5 on fourth downs.
More red zone issues for Texas.
More red zone issues. They, of course, had a big stop down at the goal line as well. Yep. They tried to sneak it in with Arch. They couldn't get him in. And I guess the bigger point is they pick off Arch twice, one of which was overturned. So They had him seeing, I think, some ghosts out there. There just wasn't a whole lot down the field. They even mentioned it on the broadcast a couple times that on the Texas side, at least early, we didn't see some of like the orbit motion and the side-to-side stuff and the normal things that Steve Sarkisian typically would do to try and get a defense off balance, either because he didn't think it would work or for some other reason with however they put the game plan together. It was a more conservative game plan than I expected. They did open it up a little bit as the game wore on, more out of necessity. But, that to me was really surprising, especially with all the hype surrounding Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like we buried the lead here.
Which is?
Well, the lead should be that Ohio State won this game 14-7 because of a stellar defensive effort and because they played really sound, responsible offensive football.
By the way, sidebar on your first point, let's give some flowers to Matt Patricia and those linebackers.
Patricia, absolutely. Listen, they look good. They really did look good.
Buddy, this is a Texas team that by midseason is going to be scoring a bunch.
Yep.
I think. Perhaps.
Here is the lead, though, okay? The lead, and not to take anything away from Ohio State, because Ohio State won this game.
Correct.
There is going to be a conversation that rages all week long, maybe all season long, about Arch Manning.
Do you think that's going to happen?
Yes, it's already happened. It happened all offseason before he even played a snap.
Sharp commercials for Viore and Warby Parker, by the way.
The Warby Parker, the
Yeah.
Viore stuff, very touching.
Sharp.
There's going to be an ongoing conversation about whether Arch is overhyped. As of the second half of this game, Arch was no longer the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. It only took one half of football for those
all fluid,
odds to
Ty.
shift. Everything's fluid. So for starters, obviously, very tough spot for him on the road. Week 1, possibly against the best team in the country. We could argue that point until we're blue in the face. It's very early, but there's no debate that Ohio State's one of the top 5 teams in the country at this point.
Sure.
So credit where it's due to the Ohio State defense. Again, played blanket coverage. Honestly, they looked incredible, but tough spot for Arch. Give him a little bit of grace on that front to sort of maybe grow into this thing. Way too early to know if this was a case of the defense purely holding down Arch, or if this was an aberration of some sorts, or whether it's more of a trend.
Or
all
if
I'm going to say
game
is
one
this.
and all of these things are true. Yeah.
All I'm going to say is this.
Yeah.
The version of Arch that we saw today was overhyped. Okay. That version of him made some nice throws, granted. Showed some flashes, for sure. But he missed throws. You can throw a rock and go online, and you could find a million clips of his delivery and mechanics kind of being out of sorts. Not very smooth. I don't know what the rationale is behind that. Is that normal Arch? Were guys speeding up his time? I don't know. Somebody smarter than me with the tape can grind that and figure that one out. But they're going to need to figure this out. He's going to need to figure this out because they've got a really tough road schedule.
Correct.
So what we saw today from him, and I agree, they're going to get better and they're going to be scoring 35 points before you know it. But if they do have aspirations of getting beyond teams like Ohio State, he got to figure this out, man. That was not
take
good
a
today.
deep breath. Yep. And you know what? We wouldn't be having this specific conversation if his name was Arch Gullickson, right?
If his name were Arch Gullickson, we'd be talking about who's the backup after that.
Or be like, this is interesting. We'll trust Sark with quarterbacks because he's had a terrific track record these past few years. But yes, if his name were Arch Gullickson, the shape of the conversation changes. And also, he's probably not as good a quarterback given what he has available to him behind the scenes. So
it's true. It's all true.
It's all true. So no, 2 fascinating teams and a great first step for Ohio State, given all that's new on both sides of the ball.
Just one other quick point, and then we'll move on to perhaps the big one of the day.
Yeah. With, by the way, Julian Sayin.
Retrospect.
Julian Sayin. Good job. Good job.
Ohio State only had 203 yards, but Ryan Day talked a bit after the game about Julian Sayin.
Yes.
And he came out and said it. They didn't want to ask him to do too much. You know, they wanted to make sure that he was put in a position to succeed. He wasn't out there trying to win the game on his arm. Sayin didn't turn the ball over. He had a big throw late, that 40-yard touchdown pass to Carnell Tate to make it 14-zip. He was very, very reliable with the football. And there were definite moments in this game where I'm sitting by myself, I'm watching outside on like my picnic table, and I said it aloud to the dogs who clearly had no idea what I was talking about, that I actually felt in that moment like I was more trusting of Sayin than I was of Arch Manning. And that's not something, I mean, look, Julian Sayin is a 5-star, but that is not something I expected to say coming out of this game. So
I know. I hear you. Also at home, also likely had better protection, also had better receivers, also had, everything going for him in a way that Arch didn't in terms of the roster around him and comfort in this offense. So, it makes sense.